Welcome back to the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Galactic Comics and Collectibles at galacticcomicsandcollectibles.com. We welcome writer Dan Baillie and artist Tim Bradstreet to the podcast to discuss their new graphic novella coming out from AWA Studios and in partnership with Vertigo Entertainment called Lookout. Okay, it's a graphic novella, so it's a combination of novella and a graphic novel. It is absolutely phenomenal. You should definitely check it out when it hits stores on May 7th. Dan is a new writer who got discovered on Reddit. Tim is a longtime comics artist out there who has been known for his work on the Punisher covers and Hellblazer covers amongst so much more. But this AWA Vertigo partnership, Vertigo is known for movies like Barbarian, Late Night with the Devil, and so much more. So this is a book that feels like a graphic novel, a comic book, and a movie all in one. And it's absolutely phenomenal. So you got to check it out. It's called Lookout. It's coming from AWA Studios on May 7th. And this is Dan Baillie and Tim Bradstreet talking about it. But before you do, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, all those places, as well as over on YouTube. You can subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, you can find more stuff over on capesandtights.com. But this is Dan and Tim talking Lookout from AWA Studios. Enjoy, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. How are you two doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Doing absolutely fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Tim?
The longer the day goes on, the better I feel.
I have a coworker at my other job that their husband had gotten sick over and over and over again. She's like, I keep on missing it. I keep on missing the sickness. This is great. And then like all of the sickness that he had like came back at her on one day.
All at once.
And she like it was like Friday, and she's literally been like down for the count for like every day. And she's hoping that it gets better and better and better. And by the end of the day, she's like, I start to feel a little better. Then I go to sleep. And my body just like resets and wake up it's horrible.
Start from scratch.
Yes. But welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited when I'm a big fan of AWA Studios. So when this email came through that this new graphic novella was coming out, I was already on board, from the start. I obviously, Tim, I'm a fan, and I know your name. Dan, I'm a little less. You're a little less, in the public.
I've just been around longer, Dan.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny actually. I think on Wikipedia or somewhere I had your day, the year you graduated college, Tim. And yeah. I'm just gonna say that I was not born, but.
You sure it wasn't graduated high school? I didn't graduate college.
Oh, so that's about high school, maybe. That's what it was. That's
I started working freelance before while I was in college, and I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. Yeah.
It sounds very common story for people who draw comics and such, that they end up being like, this is what I want to do. I'm not going to do this anymore.
We don't need no stinking degree.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I was pretty pumped, and I read it, and I was absolutely astonished at how amazing it was. I was so pumped. I flew through it. It's two of my favorite mediums, really, comics and prose, novels that kind of like blended together. That was really cool to see. And it was, a quick read, but it was like, I don't know, there's just so much into it. I want to go back and read it over and over and over again.
Well,
and so
I would tell like people that modeled for me, I said, you need to read it, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, it only takes 45 minutes, it's pretty quick. You'll be done before you know it, but
yeah,
check it out,
It's true, because I do think it's one of those daunting things. Those comic book readers expect a few speech bubbles and not seeing much like full pages of text. And I think when a comic book reader sees that sometimes, I think, this is just generalization here, obviously, but there's sometimes they're like, oh gosh, I just want to read comic books. And seeing that sometimes it is one of those like, I don't know if I want to do this, but Dan, the way you write, the way that it's scripted in there and the way all that stuff, it actually made it flew through it. Plus the story is amazing. So that helps.
It means a lot.
Yeah, me from the start.
Yeah,
awesome. That's good to hear as well.
Yeah. So I wanted to tell you off the top that it was an absolutely wonderful read. So there's that.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. That means a lot.
You said I thought I heard somewhere that you had written this story a little while ago, And you got a lot of
Yes.
feedback from people like that had read it on your site or like
Yeah, so I posted it to Reddit in 2020 during sort of the lockdown in the UK. And it gained a fair, more traction than I thought it would.
cool.
That obviously led me to writing some more stories, but that was sort of like my baby, it's my first story I've written.
That's cool as
So
hell.
to see it come obviously to this point is pretty crazy to me, but I'm very excited to sort of
I had you
have.
pegged as a seasoned veteran, man. So you're
No,
all
not quite. This is my first thing.
good.
But I
That's
appreciate that. It
awesome.
means a lot
That's
coming from you
it's
guys.
so cool. Yeah, like it's also like I guarantee you there's a bunch of people who write comics and books out there who are like, oh, cool, you got this new project and you got paired with Tim Bradstreet. Like
I know, it's
everybody else out
crazy.
there probably be like, what the hell, man? I've been
I
doing this
know.
forever. I want to
I
get
can
paired
only
with Tim.
apologize to them, but I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it to be honest, because I'm absolutely buzzing with sort of how things have happened, and it's just crazy that it's 5 years ago. I mean, it doesn't feel like 5 years ago, but I'm looking at the date in the corner of my computer right now, and it's just 5 years ago, writing
I
that
feel like I'm
story in my
displaced in
room.
time. It's the whole pandemic set
I
me up.
know.
No sense of like what 10 years ago or 5 years ago is
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly,
Oh.
exactly.
And
But
then so
it's
Tim, you AWA just put you two together, right? This is like a thing that they reached out to you, Tim, and said we have this new graphic novella we want to do, and you're going to be the artist, kind of thing.
I started out in illustration,
Yeah.
and one of my probably my favorite thing to do is illustration for books, or illustrations for. I started out in role playing games,
Yeah.
and the first guy that called me to invite me to do a comic book cover was Axel Alonso.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah.
Axel was a senior editor at Marvel for a long time. He was my editor at DC when he started in at Vertigo. And then he left Marvel and he started up with this company with some other people, the AWA. And that's the nice thing about you build a relationship with somebody and wherever he goes, he drags you along, right? But Axel knows my capabilities very well. Like when I was working for him at Vertigo, he tried to get me to do a lot of sequential. And I did it here and there. I did short stories and stuff like that. But I never really got into anything too much because I didn't want to have this big commitment. And so he's kept me going through as soon as he crossed over to AWA, I started getting calls and I've done a lot of work for those guys where they're doing covers. But when he asked me to do an illustrated book, like he told me about this project, I was like, oh man, I'm so in. I hope the story's good. And of course the story was great.
Oh,
So
I hope it's good as well.
to me it was a no-brainer because this is kind of my wheelhouse.
Mm.
And it was funny because Axel's been doing comics for so long. I don't know if he's ever edited a illustrated story before.
Yeah.
I kind of had to he kept hitting me with, hey, what about this scene? What about this scene? What about this scene? You don't have anything for this. And I'm like, yeah, we have limited space. And I have contract that says to do 25 illustrations. I've already done 35, like how am I supposed to fit this stuff in?
Mhm.
You can only fit so many illustrations of things that happen on one page, right?
Mhm.
And I chose to do a lot of full pagers. So because I felt like you had to have these moments, right?
Mhm.
And the spot illustrations, I think I had a lot of fun with those too, but there were a lot of things that demanded a full page. So they let me run with that. They let me decide whatever I wanted to do, and which was a little it was a little scary at first because I sent them this list of like 100 moments in that story that we could speckle throughout the story and have a great illustrated book. And I was hoping for some feedback, which I didn't get for some reason. And then I found myself kind of like, I need to get started on this thing. And I got a late start on it. And yeah, it was tough getting going, especially because it had been a while since I had done a project like this.
Mhm.
I've been doing covers for a long time. And so I had to like dust off and break the rust off, and it took me a while, man. I honestly did. And we'd moved cross country since the last time I did it. I hadn't used my camera equipment in like 3 or 4 years. It was ridiculous. So it was actually a bit of a daunting jump off.
And you have to obviously, as an illustrator in something like an illustrated book like this, like do art that supplements the story, but also let the story speak for itself too. And so, like
You
with Dan
have
writing
to.
the story, you have to like let him shine in his spots and
Absolutely.
sparts too, and not just probably. Whereas like in a comic book, a straight sequential artwork comic book, you have to you're taking in there. There's more imagery than there is words, so you're trying
Right.
to do a little bit more, carrying the story a little bit more. But yeah, it must be it's one of those things you have to like let both breathe in this moment.
I'm glad you said that because one of the things that, saying that there was this learning curve between me and editorial on what to do and where to do it. And I just kept telling them, I'm like, read what's there. How am I gonna top that? It's better. It's his horror, right?
Mhm.
So it's better to let the reader just give them a couple clues and then let them visualize some of this stuff. Now you got to do some of the big set pieces,
Yeah.
but most of those hopefully I'm like, I'm trying to establish things and then we just let it run because the text, everything's there.
Mhm.
And I don't want to step on it. So all I want to do is maybe give them a glimpse of what this creature looks like, this entity. Um, and is he, and there's this, the whole thing about, is this guy hallucinating? Is this really happening? There's this such a great vibe in the story. And that's what's good about new writers too, like you're even though you're probably a fan of writing, this is why you're doing it.
Mhm.
Um, your perspective is a fresh perspective.
Mhm.
And you don't know, like you can't set down a bunch of rules and go, these are the rules. You kind of write your own rules. You're kind of like just testing the waters. You're trying to see what floats.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great thing. Sorry, I need to go
No,
on
you're
there.
great. It's great. I think when Dan, like, what was it like? Experience. You obviously wrote this. You said, like I said, it was ended up on Reddit, and you had this story, this idea in your head during the pandemic. What was it like having this come to actual visualizations, like actual having someone draw part of the story that you actually created in your mind, and now seeing Tim's illustrations and paintings?
Honestly, I'd still pinch myself. I still don't fully believe it's happening yet. You know what I mean? It's like obviously it's coming out next month.
Yeah.
So I'm still in disbelief. And see, when I saw sort of the final product, I was hooked. Yeah, and to be hooked to a story that I wrote, just obviously all the credit to Tim for the he just brought it to life. He just
Mhm.
like smashed it out the park, and like all those years ago, 5 years ago, as I said, the sort of the imagery I had in my head captured it pretty much perfectly. And as Tim said, obviously it's like it's the unknown. You want your own mind to sort of bring, your own elements into what you're imagining when you're reading. And I mean, the artwork coupled with obviously what I written, I just think it's a hell of a read.
Mhm.
It's he 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 finalized sort of my vision,
Yeah.
which I cannot thank him enough for that because it was really really cool to read, especially because I mean I hadn't reread it for ages, so I'd forgotten some stuff that happened when I was first approached, and I was like I should probably reread it. But to read it sort of in that form, it was really cool. Yeah.
It's such a unique and cool, I guess, the illustrated novel or graphic novella, how you ever
Mhm.
want to say it, is like it's such a cool way of doing it too. Because like a lot of us, when you read a novel or a novella, you have to try to picture in your head what these characters look like. You have to
Yeah.
like almost use your imagination. And a lot of times, I'm actually currently reading Stephen King's Holly. Right now, he's getting ready. Stephen King's getting ready for another book called Never Flinch that features this character. And in my mind, the only character I could picture is Holly from there was a TV show based on the Finders Keepers series that he wrote. That was Holly. So now my Holly in my mind, when I read these books,
That's
is
your
that
Holly.
actress
Yeah,
who
yeah.
did it. And so it's kind of a benefit to us to have Tim's illustrations in there to be
I
like, okay,
agree.
this is
Yeah.
what your main character looks like. This is what the woods look like. This is what the tower looks like, and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And you get that. It broadens your picture of what this thing is. This is part of that Fear the Future series at AWA. That's Vertigo Entertainment's partnership and collaboration with AWA, which Vertigo is known for their movies like Barbarian and things like that. And so like they've got the film side of things figured out, and this it's like a bridge between a comic book, and a film. It's like a weird
It's made to
amalgam
be
of
a
this.
movie,
Yeah.
man. It was so visual reading it. I saw it as a film from as I was reading it. In fact, the first time I read through it, I stopped like after about 3 or 4 pages, and I just started taking notes.
Mhm.
Like, this is great. I need to, I'll get into this. This would be a great place to get. And like I said, by the time I got finished, I was like, man, I was like 150 spots. I'm like, okay, we got to whittle this down.
I mean, it's truly horrifying. I will tell you that right now. Like, not spoiling the book too much to people, but like the book is horrifying. There's moments where I couldn't stop reading. Like I just wanted to keep on reading the book, but there's moments where I want to stop. Like there's a sound gonna happen. I'm gonna flip out right now.
Tremendous fear of the
And there's this
unknown.
sense of like, so it's in this, he's, obviously in this tower,
Fire
watching for
outbreak.
fire tower and all that stuff.
Yeah.
In this wide open space, if you think about it. Yes, trees are there and stuff like that, but it's in this wilderness space.
Isolation.
But it's isolation and claustrophobia. Still, the claustrophobic part of it like puts it in there. You wouldn't think in this technically wide open, you can go anywhere. You're not stuck in that spot.
Yeah.
And it's still claustrophobic because of what happens.
But that's where he sleeps. That's where he eats,
Yeah.
right? That's where he does a lot of things. So basically, that's his cocoon, right?
Mhm.
And those fire outlooks are freaking tiny, right? They're like maybe, big ones are like 25 feet by 25 feet. And a lot of them are smaller. And so you're really insular in there. And I was like, the thing that was daunting me was, God, I've been up a outlet before, but I've never really stood in one.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I want to present the interiors? Like, how am I gonna? It seemed like a big task because I kept seeing it very broadly. I kept seeing a big. I kind of wanted to do it. If I was going to do it, I wanted to do it kind of like so you could see all this stuff in it, and I just couldn't I couldn't figure out how to technically make that happen, and so I would just show snippets and things like that. I think the biggest look we get is a shot where it's a great moment in the story where he's been hiding and shivering and freaking out and getting over this last little interaction he has with this thing, which is mostly sound. And he's already scanned the horizon and looked all around for this thing and he can't find it. And there's nothing there. So he's like just starting to relax a little bit when he's kind of glancing over and he sees the reflection of the lamp in the window. But then he notices that there's a face right there too. And it's such a great moment. And I was like, man, that's just the best. I've got to try to, that was the one I really wanted to go after.
Yeah, and get it in there. It's
not
beautiful.
real
That's
tight.
a full page one too, right? That was one of those full page spread art pieces that are in
And
there
just
too,
that
yeah.
silent figure, right? I mean, just staring at you that's terrifying, man.
So
Just
scary.
at home,
That's so
like
scary.
watching Scream or whatever, and you're like,
Yeah.
and then you just kind of glance out and you see something out the window, even if it's not really even there. You want to just jump scare. It's fantastic.
And you get it in a book or in a graphic novel. Like this is like something that you potentially get. The scary moments, the eerie moments that I got in this book were similar to what you'd see on film, or what would jump scare me in a film, which is what what it was there, what it was like. I mean, Dan, have you been in fire towers before? Like, how did that come up?
I've never been in a fire tower. When I was I was obsessed with horror growing up, like completely a horror fanatic.
And it's a whole new spin on the cabin horror movie, right?
Yeah.
Passion Shack or whatever they call it.
There was a tower. I grew up sort of Southeast Asia, and we used to walk to the beach sort of every weekend, and there was a tower that was just abandoned, and I always thought, like every time I walk past it, that is creepy. Like imagine staying up there kind of thing. And it wasn't until obviously I grew up and I was like, I'm gonna write a story. What's a creepy setting? And as you say, it's sort of like it's the isolation, the claustrophobia, despite being in this, like completely open space. As Tim says, you're confined to that tower. So if you're up in that tower, yes, you can see sort of for miles around, but there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
If something comes from below, you're
go anywhere further up.
You know what I mean? You can't go up. You can't.
Might as well be in an elevator.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I just thought, and I've never really seen fire outlook towers be used in horror, and I was a bit like, why not, man? It's a creepy place. And then obviously the sort of speaking to the other outlook towers, I won't sort of spoil anything, but I thought I could really play with that as well, like who you're speaking to. You don't actually meet these people, but you are speaking to them constantly, and I thought I could build on that a bit, which I tried to do.
Well, that moment reminded me, I don't know if you're a big Walking Dead fan or not, whatever, when Rick talks to his dead wife on the phone, and he's like, no, she's there, she's saying things, she wants us to come these places, and everybody's like, dude, the phone's not even connected to the wall. I don't know what the hell you're doing right now. This is apocalyptic times, and you're not actually talking to your dead wife right now. But it's funny because I wrote in my review of the book, it was that I've been like in the hours, mindless hours of doom scrolling through Instagram and stuff like that. You come across people who actually do the fire tower, months at a time, and they just go up there and this one woman was explaining how this is where my food is and all that stuff. She's got like a hammock and she makes it look so nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that'd be so much fun to do for a couple months. Well, Dan and Tim, you ruined that for me altogether.
Sorry.
So I'm never gonna want to do that again. I'm not even gonna
That's
want
my
to get near
bad.
one now at this point. Like, so
That's,
it's all
the
done.
story within the story is a big part of it too.
Yeah.
And those things are intriguing to a reader, right? You want to solve this mystery. You really try to figure it out in your head what the heck's going on. And you get fed those things in small bits. And you start to slowly kind of put things together. But even when you think you have it figured out, you don't really know what the hell's going on. And that's one of the great things about it. It keeps you kind of guessing, and it keeps you reading.
And having that protagonist, that main character that has gone through loss, like has no friends and has been through a divorce and looking for a job and like being like, oh, this is an opportunity. I've been divorced. I've also had this time where I've separated from a girlfriend or broke up with a girlfriend and moved to another state and was like, oh, I'm just gonna start fresh. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah,
I drove a little
exactly.
pickup truck with
page
whatever my
one
belongings were in the back, and I wanted this is it. This is all I want to do. And at that moment, I mean, that was like in my early 20s. I probably would have done, what this guy did and go up to a fire tower and lived up there for a few months and so on. But yeah, I don't think I would have been the same person afterwards. Forget the horror aspect of this. I don't think I would have been the same person after staying 3 months by myself in a fire
I
tower.
think there's a lot of people that's intriguing to because, and this is why in retrospect, I bet there's a lot of writers out there that are just kicking themselves for missing the boat on the fire outlook. I mean, come on. It seems so obvious, right?
Right there, picking up mysteries.
You've never seen anything like this.
And let's be honest, the story was on Reddit, and someone just didn't steal it either, Dan. Like
No shit,
like,
Not that I know of.
exactly. Well, no one else has gotten this big out of it and had discussions about it. So yeah, it's one of those things. And the title itself, "Look Out," with the lookout, but also look out for other stuff. Like that stuff is there. It totally reads like a movie, and I think that's a big thing for a lot of people out there. I think I can see it being produced into a film, which would be awesome. And I know that's not the plan. I know that's what Roy Lee has talked about, and with Alex Alonso. They all have said that this was a graphic novella. That's the point of this whole thing. That's the reason why we made this thing. But no one goes into creating something like this and saying, yeah, I don't want the next thing to come from it. And so,
right.
Yeah, you got to go into it saying, oh, it'd be awesome if it was adapted into a feature film. But as of right now, I think it's really cool that this is how it lives. This is the medium it's in. And I think that, if it never went any further than this, I think it's perfect in that spot. I hope you agree with that. Yeah.
When I wrote it, I literally wanted to scare one person. Like that's all I wanted. I just like because as I said, I grew up with horror and I'd almost like out-horrored myself. Like nothing was scaring me anymore. So when I was writing the story, I was like, I'm gonna write what would scare me, and that's bound to scare someone else somewhere. And I just wanted to scare one person. I remember thinking that when I wrote it.
You're that desensitized to it, right? Like
almost, yeah. Honestly, so when I do come across something that really scares me, I get like the buzz back as if it's like the first time I've ever watched a horror movie. So I was like, I'm just gonna write something that would really scare me. And someone down the line is bound to read this and get scared, and that's all I want. So to see it come, obviously, to this point is awesome. I just want to scare people. I just love the thought of scaring people.
I mean, it does, and it's honestly, I would say, it's not to make you like your head bigger than this, Dan, but I believe it's hard to do in a written format to scare people really badly. I think it's one of those things that when you're watching a television show or a movie and something scares the shit out of you, you've got to find, you got to find the remote to try to pause it or turn the TV off or walk away or close your eyes. A book, you just like, as it gets to a point where it scares you, you just stop reading. You close the book and you're done. And so for me personally, I'm like, you have to draw that or balance that line between wanting you to read the next paragraph, but also scaring the shit out of you at the same time. And I think that there's that balance there. And same with your imagery, Tim, is that you did scary imagery, but it's not to the point where I wanted to close the book. I still wanted to know what the hell happened.
Slasher imagery or gore or anything like that.
The mystery was still there. I still wanted to know what the hell was going on. And like you mentioned, is this real? Is it not? Is it what's going on? I know also, like, not spoiler alert, but I'm glad you didn't at the end be like, and he was at his apartment the whole time, and he woke up.
That was
That
my
would have
first
pissed
draft.
me
How do you know
off.
about that?
I think so many people would have been like, "Ah, God damn
No,
it!"
the ending was sort of the toughest bit to come up with. I
Yeah.
won't
Oh
sort
yeah.
of dwell on it, but the funny thing about writing it was I was back when I was releasing it in parts, so there were 13 parts. So I was trying to do what you said there, sort of draw people in,
Yeah.
so that the next week they'd be like waiting for it and come back to read it, kind of thing. So I'm glad I managed to do that somewhat, keep people drawn in, but.
Endings that aren't the Shawshank Redemption are really hard
I
to
did too.
sell to movie studios and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But those are the things also that are going to make your movie stand out from everything else, or your story. You know, when Frank Darabont was doing The Mist,
Yeah.
um, he wanted to shoot it in black and white, and he wanted the ending that he wanted. And who was it? Harvey Weinstein. So whoever it was that paid for it said, "I'll give you a check for like twice the budget you want right now if you do it. If you just say you'll do it in color and you'll change that ending."
Yeah.
And Frank said, "I'll take the check for
Yeah.
half."
Yeah.
And then he went to Shreveport and shot a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a thing, and so excuse me. I just love the story behind like not only just knowing this thing, and I feel like this is one of those things that really people should know this story more about how like you two got together and how the story was created in the first place, and then how it got to the point where now it's at AWA as a graphic novella. It's a great story in that sense too. But like it also seemed like even though it was Dan's original story and your artwork, Tim, it seemed like it was the two pieces work together. You mentioned like feedback and
We
stuff like that,
connected
Tim.
via the story.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, that's the thing. It's like you guys got to the point where you guys got to know each other through each other's talents in a
Yeah,
sense
so you're right.
on
That's
that.
awesome. It's a
But
good way to
it's
put it.
one of those cool things. So like there's this is actually like the second page in, so it's really not spoiling much. There's a rules that this character finds in the very beginning of this stuff. Are those all rules that you had in the original story, Dan, or is this stuff that had to be some of this stuff had to be changed or was
Yeah,
changed
so
from the
stuff's
original
stuff's
story?
been changed. The rules, no, the rules were in the original story.
Okay.
I like the idea of almost being told exactly what you need to do, but can you do it or not? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like if you get what I'm saying, like
Yeah.
the thought of, you're aware that if you don't do this, something's gonna happen, and
Yeah.
you might not even know what's gonna happen, but something's gonna happen. So you better follow them.
Yeah.
It puts a lot of pressure on the character and the reader, hopefully. Like, so if the reader is reading and recognizes something's happening that's related to one of the rules, they're like, oh man, I've read, something similar is happening this before. This is one of the rules. So that's sort of why
Yeah.
I wrote them in. I just thought it would be sort of different, but
Yeah.
also add to that sort of like almost like as back to the claustrophobia things.
Yeah.
Like you have to live by these rules. Like you
Mhm.
can't go outside them, otherwise something will happen, which I obviously won't talk about. We have to read it.
Oh yeah, and it adds a whole other layer to a fear in the sense that you read this
Mhm.
thing because I don't think anybody would read these rules if you or I were just like stumbling up. I had this job and went up there, you stumbled upon this piece of paper, I'd be like, someone's trying to screw with me.
You'd think it
This is
was,
not
yeah,
real.
think it's a
Well,
This,
joke.
you have that
yeah,
moment too, right? It's like,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
the thing that makes it so effective is that you're with this guy.
mhm,
You're sane, right? You're reading it. You're like, my sanity's intact. This guy seems reasonably sane, and so you're with him. You're
mhm,
him, and
Mhm.
so as he goes through things, you're going through it with him, and so as you experience these things, the list, all this stuff, he's talking about how he's reacting to it, and it's exactly how you're reacting to it,
mhm.
right? And it's just great stuff, man. It really makes it so much more um personal.
Yeah,
It's extremely personal. I mean, everyone can kind of read it and kind of use and adapt it in their head any way they want to, like, but they're with that main character, they're with that narrative. And that was the strong thing about it. And it's what I really responded to because I felt like that was me walking through the woods.
yes,
I felt like that was me in that fire outlook.
yeah.
And yeah, I
Which
mean,
is
it it,
scary as
it
hell,
worked.
man. Like,
Absolutely. I don't know
so
how you stumbled on it or how you
yeah,
came up with the concept, but however you came up with the concept, it's such a strong concept. I mean,
Thank you.
just any way you look at it.
Thank you
I
very
mean,
And
much.
did your title go
have you
through an
written story?
evolution?
Sorry, go ahead, Dan, what was that?
Oh, I was just asking, did the title go through an evolution?
The
The title
title?
of the book?
Yeah,
You mean Lookout?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was sort of us, myself and sort of AWA talking. So when I posted on Reddit, it was called I took a job as a fire outlook in the middle of the
Right, right.
woods. I found a strange set of rules, and the reason it's called that was like from the other sort of Reddit stories I was reading. They usually like just put like a sentence to draw you in to basically like make the premise of the thing,
Yeah.
That's
premise of
great.
the story just to sort of draw you in. So I just named it that on Reddit, but Lookout sort of just came from after I started speaking with AWA to turn it into a graphic novel. So I won't take the full credit
It's
for the
funny because
title
I didn't
Lookout.
know what the I kept hearing different titles as as I was
Yeah,
communicating with
that was
editorial.
the Reddit title initially, but
That would
now
have been great.
it's
I think you needed like a variant cover with the original title as the
it's a bit
title.
long.
It's like a long thing. I mean, it's like there's some writers nowadays like Matthew Rosenberg and those guys over there that are doing like these titles that are like sentences long.
Yeah,
Just join the club
Be
on that,
great.
man.
join the
Like
Do
club.
that big long thing and then put our main character Oscar into that title
yeah,
with the flashlight, like
yeah.
he's searching throughout the title and going through it
I
like an
think you
empty
need
deck
that
or a
Look at
special
that.
edition,
A special
second
edition
printing.
cover.
There you go, right there. No, but that list too. I mean, Tim, you drew that piece of paper with the list on it. Is that your handwriting? Is that your actual real handwriting, or is that special for this one character?
I was telling those guys, I said, since the advent of email, I don't write anymore, like longhand. And so my handwriting is atrophied horribly. Like go to
Yeah.
sign stuff or write stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I gotta slow down, right? And so I went, you know what? The way it describes this thing is written,
Mm,
it's I don't know whether you use the word erratic or not, but it's kind of along those lines.
hmm
And I thought, wow, if there was ever a time my handwriting might come in handy, it's now.
hmm
And so I just did what I do, just did my handwriting right, except I just tried to do it a little faster, which made it even more manic.
That is
And
so awesome.
it's so funny
Well,
because at the 11th hour, they're going to the printer. I get a series of emails from the book layout
yeah,
guy. Did a fantastic job, by the way. I want to cite him specifically. The guy who laid out the book, the
yeah.
art book, did a tremendous job. I'm really, really happy with what he did. But he goes, is there any way you could well, there was some words we had to change because we kept changing the antagonist's name
Yeah,
if there
yeah,
isn't.
yeah. Their
And so
title, their
that
narrative.
also went through some
Mm.
evolution. So while I was doing it, I was like, well, I don't know what it's going to be. So I just called it something.
Mm,
And that was still on the thing. In the meantime, they'd come up with this is what it's going to be. So they wanted me to go back and just kind of fix that. But then also he's like, hey, by the way, could you fix, you can't really read that right there. You can't really read if over here. You can't really tell, it's illegible. So I went back and I actually fixed like key moments just so that things were legible enough
yeah.
that you could read it. Yeah.
Well, I love that. That added another layer of like, fear to me. It was like, what if you had a rule here and they were telling you everything you needed to do, but you actually couldn't fully read it? So you're like, oh crap, was this light on or is it supposed to light off? Oh shit!
I
Like
tried to
you're,
put my head in the scene. I mean, when I
yeah,
was writing it out, I tried to put my head in Harvey is his name, I think, the guy who was in the fire lookout before it. So
Yeah.
the person another entity creates the rules,
yeah,
and so when Oscar gets the rules, he's like, "What the f is this?" And but the way it describes that it's written, it sounds like this guy's trapped in some kind of horror, right? So I just tried to get inside that when I was writing it. So it wasn't just me kind of speeding up my writing. It wasn't as simple as that. I really kind of took it on as a experiment.
hmm It is great, and then it's those are the one page is on that one page, and then when they're referenced later on throughout the book, they cut and you're split
Mm.
out those things, and you get to read that again. And I think
No, it's
it adds
interesting.
to it. It adds a lot to it because of the fact that this visualization of these things, like if this is just a regular novella that I read and I picked up, that list of rules that are in this would probably just be a list of rules. It would
It's
be a
something that they
typed
used to
out
do with
list of
like
rules.
Robert E. Howard books or Edgar
Yeah.
Rice Burroughs books where you'd have an illustration on the page and there would be this little excerpt of text, right?
Mhm.
And specifically for one of the full pagers, I was like using a line of text. This is what I'm drawing, right? And
Mhm.
so I just ripped a part out of that. I didn't rip it out. I pulled just the letters out of it and I knocked it into the illustration and made it part of the illustration. I
Yeah.
think that might have cued them to maybe go that route. I don't know if that's true or not, but I was trying it as an experiment and I just was kind of turned it in and was kind of bouncing it up to see if they'd want me to change it or not. But they ended up going with it. So
it worked, and I think that you mentioned the layout. I don't know if it was Chris Ferguson who did the logo and stuff too. I don't know if they're the ones that
I
actually
think it's
did.
Chris, yeah.
Yeah, who did the layout and the book design, and it's just flows so well, and it's not like a point where like okay, you flip the turn on the left hand side is your illustration, right is your text, and then you keep on going. It's like
That's the
some pages
challenge,
are
right?
full page, some are like small illustrations, some are big half
Yeah.
page illustrations, and I think it flowed well, and it was like one of those things where you got to take almost a break. You're reading you're reading your paragraphs, and then you go, oh cool, I can take a break and look at this nice imagery here. Sometimes it scares the shit out of you. Sometimes it's just a nice picture of a person looking at a map or something. But it's almost like I said, as someone who up until about I don't know 3 or 4 years ago, very rarely read anything prose, anything novel based. I was so not so great at reading, and my speed was so slow that I'd get so disappointed and frustrated with the fact that I couldn't finish this book, and I'd give up. I read the beginning, the first 3 chapters of
I had to
so
put
many
Dune
books,
down 3 times.
and so like it's refreshing, and I think that this could be that entryway to some people who don't even know if they like comics, but
That's
also don't
interesting.
know if they want prose novels. And I think that this mixture of the two is a format that I hope that a lot more people end up doing in the comic book world. I know illustrated books are out there, but I'm saying like the AWA connection, the comic book publisher side of these things, that I'd love to see other publishers, or including AWA, do something similar to these, this hybrid of mediums, because I think that
Comics
there's entry
industry's always
entryway
had
for
trouble
both
with
people.
that.
Yeah.
Comics industry's never really taken to it, right? They tried
Mm.
pictofiction back in the
Yeah.
60s, early 70s. They try it here and there. They do little experiments. If it doesn't sell, it's like opening weekend. If it doesn't make $80 million opening weekend, it's a
It's a
flop.
failure. Yeah.
It's like, okay, you can go straight to hell with that kind of a
Yeah.
concept, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But it truly is like a big part of. Hold on a second. I just got completely distracted by a dog. My dog. Pardon me.
That's acceptable.
That'd be awesome if it was just a dog. All of a sudden, I know
A
Richard just has a
random
random dog in
dog.
his house right now.
Yeah,
But no,
it's just a neighbor dog.
yeah, just came in. It's asking for help. The horror movies, horror stories are continuing here on the podcast
So coming to
with this
life.
stuff. Yeah. But no, I mean, Dan, you have this story. Okay, you put it on Reddit. Now it's getting printed. It's going to be out in comic book shops here pretty
Yes.
soon in May. And is this? I mean, is this light a fire under your butt to do more? Is this what? I mean, is
Yeah,
this like one of
yeah.
those things where I mean, this is not your job, so hopefully,
No.
when this is something you want to do, continue doing.
Oh, I'd love to. The whole obviously I've written other stories. This one,
Yeah,
as I said, is my baby, my first one. But I would experience obviously like burnout just with my job and like coming back to write. And writing's what I love to do. Not my job.
yeah,
Um, but just even just this whole process, I'm in shock still. I still don't fully believe it's happening, even though it is.
yeah,
I've said to all my family and friends and all that. Once this is out, I'm getting back to it because why not? It's what I
yeah,
like to do. And this has certainly lit sort of a fire under me to get back to it because I love it and I love horror and I've even would venture outside of horror. See how I feel doing
yeah,
that. But no, 100% lit a fire in me
Those
for
yeah,
sure.
moments in your career are, come fleeting. They're peaks and valleys, right?
Okay,
And so when
yeah,
you do catch fire on something like that, man, you got to take full advantage of
jump
that
on it.
motivation, all that stuff. It'll
Yeah.
it'll kindle for the next, couple of years till you top yourself again,
Awesome. On my phone, I have so many like ideas for horror stories, and I'm just like, why haven't I written any of these? Just like very generic, basic ideas that I could think I could really grow up on, and I was scrolling through them maybe a few days ago, and I was like, damn, I don't even remember right now, but that's a good
yeah.
idea. You know what I mean? So like 100%, I'm gonna get just jump straight back in because I do miss it. It's been
Confidence is a great motivator,
yeah.
and that when you do something like this, it really builds your confidence a little bit to do it exactly what you were saying. I got this list of ideas.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And
Because
that's good
I
because there's going to be editors out there that are going to go, "Do you have any more ideas?"
okay, I've got a few. Um, but I haven't written an original story in probably about a year. Um, but this is definitely, as you say, I need to jump on this. I know I do, and I will. I promise I will because it has lit a fire in me for sure.
Follow
Do
up on
you?
what I was saying a second ago, just real
Yeah,
quick.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
The whole thing about illustrated books or illustrated prose in comics. Um, Gosh, I really hope this gets AWA to kind of go, you know what? Maybe we'll do another one of these.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do another one. Whether it's me or not, I would love to see more of that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Me too. Like it's
And
drawn me in, like this whole world of these graphic novels. I wanna read more as well. So I agree with you there
it's
for sure.
interesting too because you can only do so much in a paperback novel or a
Yeah.
trade edition size, like book. Like I illustrated this book called El Borak's Desert Adventures. It's all this Robert E. Howard stuff, but man, everything's just so tiny and it seems like there's no space for anything. But this presentation really impressed me because it really brought, like it really utilized the artwork to its utmost
Hmm.
and still blended it on the page with the prose. I just want to see more. I've always wanted to see more. This is
Hmm.
not a new tap dance for me, but uh, man, do more, please, somebody.
Yeah, and
There's a
that's the
lot of
thing. I
people
think
out
I think there's space for it. And I think that there's in an
there.
industry, and there's a lot of people. I mean, this is I think it's going to be $7.99 shelf price for this book, or maybe it's $9.99. I don't know. It's somewhere in that space. And I think that price is one of those things where like comics in general are expensive nowadays. Like they're getting more and more expensive, and in current climate we're in, and prices of paper and tariffs and all this other stuff is obviously going to change the industry a little bit more too. Is they want a complete story. I think a lot of people like this trade format, but also sometimes trades for some people are too long, which is crazy in my opinion. But like this is that one of those things that this is one of those shorter stories that kind of meets everything in the middle, and you get a complete full story, and you pay one price for it on a Wednesday when you go in to get it, and hopefully it comes back out. And,
Yeah,
and
it's
the other thing is this
half
is
the
one of
graphic
those.
novel
Yep,
price.
yep. And it's this, the one shots. AWA has done a couple of these one shots that are not just this is a graphic novella one shot, but like, Mark Russell had a one shot come out last year, I believe it was, that was phenomenal in that sense too, of that one 7.99, 8.99 complete story in this thing, and it came out in like I think a hardcover later on, things like that too. So like this is like those things that like the next there could be special edition versions of it and stuff like that people could put on their shelf, instead of just putting it in a bag and board and putting it in your comic box. But this is one of those things, and I think that's beautiful. I think it's a gorgeous thing. It's 8.99. That's what it's actually going to be. Which I said that. I said, didn't I say 7.99 or 9.99?
Hey,
8.99, right in the
right
middle. It's right in
between.
the, right in the middle. But,
Honestly, this is one of those stories that I think is infinitely adaptable. It's like
mhm.
I would love to see what Bruce Timm would do with this story. I would love
Yep.
to see what Bill Sienkiewicz would do with this
Yep.
story. I would love to see what a lot of guys would do with this story
Mhm.
because, I'm a fan of those guys, so
Mhm.
it's to see it through someone else's filter, their lens.
Mhm.
I think you get a different experience every time. So, when this one peters out and then I think just do it again with another artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
All
go.
right, all right, all right. The prequel as well. Hey,
Yeah, there you go.
Harvey's story told.
There, that it's probably it's there.
Well,
It's one of those things that and if you get it at least written in your mind when they do adapt it, then there's the second film you have right there. Is
There you
there's the
go.
prequel film
So teeing
for
up.
it. Yeah, so there you go. It's all there. It's all right there for you. But yeah, it's been cool to see this evolution, this experience for you, Dan, because like I said, this is not your job, and this is something that's kind of cool. And I'm sure a lot of people out there who have been writing comics and pitching comics to publishers for a long time are pissed at you.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Sorry.
only because they hate us because they ain't us kind of thing, where it's like you're getting the attention that they potentially didn't get. But are you going to see yourselves like signing at conventions and things like that now, or is this like something you're still going to just sit at your house and write your stories and kind
No,
of
no. If people want me to sign at conventions, I'll do
yeah,
it. To me, yeah, in my head, I'm just Dan. I'm just Dan
yeah,
who wrote a story on Reddit one day. So the thought of doing that is wild to me. But I'm happy to do anything and everything.
yeah,
But even, I mean, even just thinking about that, it's gone through my brain. There's lining up to meet me would be very, very strange decision on their behalf.
yeah, they're
But
after an autograph from a guy who played a guard on an episode of Doctor Who 30 years ago. You're in.
oh.
yeah, exactly. We were just talking about that the other day. Where the oh, I was a Walking Dead zombie, and you're like, really? You're like, yeah, you know that horde in episode 2 where there was like a million zombies. I was number 391. There's a line out the door getting people
Everybody's
signing their
trying to build a
autographs.
career off that bit part, right?
Yeah, it's so awesome. It's like I was the dead corpse in an episode of CSI, and like, yeah. So for someone who read a really well written and amazing story, I would be very happy to see people lining up at your table. But are you based in? Where are you based?
I'm in Glasgow, in
Yeah, that's
Scotland.
what.
So I'm
Yeah,
not from here.
yeah.
I don't know if you think I sound Glaswegian or Scottish, but I grew up
Glaswegian,
Glaswegian,
absolutely.
yeah. I grew up
Get the Billy Connolly going.
in Southeast Asia. So I moved here when I was 18 for
Okay.
pre-university, and I've been here since 10 years now or so.
How long were you in Southeast Asia?
Till I was 18 years old, so 18 years.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
and that's kind of a pretty imprintable time of life too. So
Yeah, so that's
it's
sort of
you didn't
my
pick up
home
more of
in my mind
it.
is still that side of the world for sure.
Wow,
No, I like Glasgow. It's a really nice people here, and I'm
love
enjoying my
class.
time here.
That's awesome. That's really cool to see.
Yeah.
I'm like I said, I was pumped, and when I read the book or got the PDF sent to me, I was like, oh, this is so good. I was like, okay, I'll read it over a couple of nights. This is great. And I was like, no way I'm reading anything else. I'm reading this whole thing to the end. I don't care. I'll go. I usually go to bed a little early. I have kids, so like they're young, and so they wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm like, I don't care if I'm up when they wake up because I'm reading this book, and I'm so pumped to just bust through it, and I was so happy to read it. But then when I was like, you know what, I really want to talk to these people, so let's see if we can get them on the podcast and chat about it. I'm so glad I did because it's just so much fun talking to people
Yeah,
and
thanks for
hearing
reaching out.
yeah the story behind the story and getting this book made and stuff like that. And it wasn't like you were looking to get it made. It wasn't like you were like pitching it to people. It's like really
No,
someone
no.
came to you, which is really cool.
Like I said, I
And
just wanted to scare one person, so this is wild to me.
this is just so
Well, I mean
cool to
that,
see.
that's what people like Axel and the crew at
Yeah.
AWA. They're always looking for fresh material. They're looking for material,
Mhm.
stuff that they would want to do,
Mhm.
and so one part of that is always looking for new talent.
Mhm.
And whatever, I don't know how the two collided, but it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I think that's the only way to kind of come up. I mean,
Mhm.
you get the same guys all over and over and over, and maybe those guys have a history and have a fan base, and you make money with these guys every time. But it's you gotta bring new, fresh ideas in, and yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I'm pretty impressed. I was sold like when I got asked to do the job, it was like, hey, this is a story by Dan Baillie, and it's from Vertigo, the people behind all these movies.
Yeah.
And so I thought the writer was like some screenwriter, honestly. I mean, I had no idea who
I'm
Dan was.
just a random
Yeah.
dude in Scotland.
No idea. But I
But
love
that's
it.
great.
That's
It's
even way
amazing.
better.
And I'll tell you right now, like I said, the number of writers out there who would love to have this, glowing review from someone like Tim
It's
is
crazy. I've
is a
got
long
goosebumps.
list.
I'm
And
happy my
so
arms are on the screen because all my hairs are standing out. I've got goosebumps, but thank you. It means
that's
a
so
lot.
awesome. And Tim, your job on this and your work on this is phenomenal. It's stunning.
So good.
It feels there's moments where like this is not a real picture. This is a picture. This is not an illustration or painting. This is amazing. And I love that stuff. And I think there's certain stories that it fits well with and certain stories that it doesn't. And I think that this fits really extremely well together. It matched up really well. And I think AWA did 100% amazing job casting the creative team on this book because it's
That's
actually phenomenal.
Again, that's what Axel always does. I always say when you put together an art team and a writer and an artist, it's like casting,
Yeah.
and that's always been one of Axel's biggest strengths as an
Mhm.
editor. And he's great at it. He always finds great people and puts them together, and that's the key to making good stuff, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so looking forward to more from you, Dan. I will be a fan. I will be watching for
Thank
the
you. Thank
horizon
you.
for the next thing to come from you in
You're
any
like, what are we
format it
doing now?
is.
Man, what's next? Come on.
Yeah,
What's
exactly.
Go
Come
do
on.
next?
another one.
Yeah,
I
can't
always
say
love that when
that.
people talk to like people too. Like the book comes out May 7th, and I'm always like, there's like people talking podcasts are like, so what's next? And you're like, dude, can we like get the book on the shelves before we talk
Yeah,
about what's
that's literally my
next?
time frame. Get the book in the shelves, and then we'll get back to the drawing board.
Yeah,
My favorite thing, just briefly about
yeah.
writing is I love almost so every story I've written, I've sort of connected them somehow in a very strange, subtle way.
They
I
live in a
love,
world.
yeah, basically like almost like maybe like potentially like sort of same universe kind of vibes, and it's
Mm,
like,
Castle Rock and like that kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. I just like n knowing it's in there, and like every now and then I used to get messages Reddit being like, hold up, like this story that you've written compared to this exact line was used in a story a year ago.
yeah.
Is it linked? And I'm just like, oh, that's one less sort of Easter egg. So As in terms of what's next, who knows? But I'll make a reference to look out for sure, whatever comes next, because I just
People
love
are
these
sharp,
sort of
man.
interlinking.
It's crazy. It's people are sharp. Like I love that stuff too. Yeah, like,
Yeah,
I've talked to Charles Soule about certain books, like the president will be the same president in two different books, and I'm like, wait a
yeah, stuff like
second,
that. I
is it
love
in the
that. I
same
love
world or
stuff
what's?
like that.
But
Yeah.
they
Tied
don't
together.
interact with each other, or they're not like in it. But they're like, wait a second, that store was in that book. What the hell's going on here?
Mhm.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see
But
what's next
there
for
are
sure.
little sort of Easter eggs in Lookout.
Mhm.
So keep an eye out for those because there are sort of little hints as to well, I won't say what, I'll give it away, but just keep a sharp eye.
But for those people who don't know or anything like this and aren't on Reddit, is there a place where you can read your other stories on Reddit? Is there like a place I can send people or tell people you can tell people
Yeah,
about?
it's under my my Reddit name.
Yeah,
Squishy Cabbage is my Reddit name.
amazing.
So not as elegant as Dan Bailey, obviously, but it's on my Reddit name. Squishy Cabbage is where my
Okay.
other stories
That's
are,
awesome. I
are
want
creeping.
people
Great
to go read
moniker.
them. Yeah, I love it. The fact that you went to Dan Bailey, but it would have been even better if it was AWA Studios book from Squishy Cat.
Part of me was like,
Yeah,
should I just keep Squishy Cabbage? But I was
Squishy
like,
Cabbage and
no
Tim
one
Bradstreet.
would, none of my friends would believe it was me. So I was like, I'll say my
Yeah.
real name.
The USFL of comic publishers.
Squishy Cabbage is where it's at. No, the book hits local comic book shops on May 7th. If you listen to this before then and you want to just tell your local comic book shop FOC is passed, but like just tell them that you want it and they'll get you a copy of it. Don't worry about it because they can reorder and things like that. Hopefully it's on the shelves at a bunch of places. So you can just grab it and pick it up and read it on May 7th. But yeah, do it because this book is phenomenal. It's a great mashup of novella, graphic novel, comic book. Illustrations are phenomenal. Story is wonderful. It will scare the shit out of you. I'll tell you that right now. And I'm waiting for the day that we get to talk again. And when we're talking about your book being adapted into a film, that's coming. I'll tell you that right now. I don't have any inside information, but I'm putting it out in the universe right now that this will eventually be a
Let's put
film
it
or
out
a
there.
badass TV show on because a TV show would work too, like a streaming 10 episode run of a TV show where each episode is a different part of this story. I could see that happening too. Would be awesome too. Or a anthology style where it's the next person in the tower.
Trying to keep that tension up over that
Yeah.
it would be a challenge. It wouldn't be impossible, but it would definitely
Yeah.
like
I love a challenge, Tim. I love a
yeah,
challenge.
absolutely. I think it's a great idea, actually.
But that's awesome. I do appreciate both of you taking the time out of your day to chat, look out, and so much more here on the podcast. And I hope at one point in the future we'll get you back on to chat about
Oh, for
comics,
sure. Thanks
books,
for
and so
having
on.
me.
So
I
Very
really
much.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Justin.
absolutely. And we'll talk soon. Okay. Thanks, guys.